the red hot light of the North Star.
Greetings and welcome back. As always, the Orinoco Tribune reports U.S. false flag against Venezuela. DEA agent caught with cocaine in drug boat. Well, if you can't get your drugs from the DEA, I mean, where else are you going to go to get them? The Venezuelan Minister of Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, reported that the United States government is trying to carry out a false flag operation involving planting drugs on Venezuelan vessels in the Caribbean in order to justify military aggression against the country. Why is the United States going through such great lengths to start a war with Venezuela? Let's connect some dots and find out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.
Welcome to the Connecting the Dots podcast with Dr. Wilmer Leon, and I am Wilmer Leon. With each show, my guests and I provide insight and analysis into current events and the broader historical context in which most of these events take place. Let me quickly look at two of today's headlines before we get to my guest. Jimmy Kimmel's suspension reverberates beyond late-night TV. Critics accused ABC of bowing to President Donald Trump after it suspended Kimmel's show over his comments about the suspect in the Charlie Kirk killing. Folks, the president is using the FCC as his political hitman in order to stifle dissent and free speech and to get his detractors to fall in line. And along the same lines, Trump allies seek to punish speech they dislike following Kirk killing. Administration officials promise actions against critics and break with past GOP rhetoric defending free speech, probably drawing legal challenges. In fact, if you remember, when Trump was sworn in, he promised to issue an executive order protecting free speech. Well, I guess all free speech isn't free. On today's episode, the issue before us is the U.S. and its apparent attempts to create a narrative that manufactures consent for the Trump administration to start a war with Venezuela, the point of which, among a few points, is probably regime change. My guest is an independent journalist and analyst, host of his own program, Niko House. My brother, as always, welcome back.
Hey man, thanks for having me back. Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot.
So first of all, let's tell the audience where they can hear you, and I was gonna say why they should listen to you, but the answer is because you're Niko House. Where can people get the show?
So you can find me on YouTube for the People podcast with Niko House, on Hotspot at Hotspot on X, and at Real Niko House on X, and you can definitely find me on Instagram as well at Real Niko House. That's Niko with a K, not a C, for my people out there.
Well, thank you on behalf of your people. We greatly appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay, so let's start with Venezuela. No. Let's start with Jimmy Kimmel. So he comes out, I think it was Monday, And in his commentary, he makes reference to the Charlie Kirk's killer as being part of MAGA, and that MAGA is now trying to cover up that relationship and disassociate themselves from him. The reaction to that is immediate suspension of the show, and many question whether we will ever see Jimmy Kimmel on network television again. Your thoughts, Niko House?
Well, first of all, I actually have never found Jimmy Kimmel funny. I feel like if there was like a legitimate reason to take him off the air, it's for not being funny years ago. But this justification that they're trying to use to take him off the air is absolutely ridiculous. Because if you watch the entirety of that monologue with the context, what he said is that MAGA is trying to weaponize the death of Charlie Kirk and paint this individual, Tyler Robinson, who's been accused of killing him, as anything but one of them. Because it's true. They are trying. I mean, we've seen multiple contradictions, we've seen The Guardian retract the original article where they made all these claims about him being a leftist. And then they wrote another article a couple of days later, but saying the same thing. It's only that they added the part that now the prosecutors are officially using those claims as evidence, despite The Guardian didn't even think those claims were sufficient enough to be used in an article, which is why they retracted the original article. And most of the comments that Jimmy Kimmel made were actually critical of Donald Trump and the way that he reacted to his supposed friend being murdered. Because when he was asked initially about it in person, he started talking about the ballroom in the White House. And not just once, but twice. He did it during Fox News, and he did it during an impromptu press conference near the White House. And he seemed very cold, given the fact that on social media, he's been banging his chest like a gorilla, trying to censor and attack and demonize anyone who isn't deifying Charlie Kirk. But when asked in person, it's like he doesn't want to discuss it, and he's talking about this ballroom. Jimmy Kimmel was talking about Donald Trump more than Charlie Kirk. And I actually feel like that's the reason why Donald Trump's hand-picked FFC head came out and basically threatened ABC and Disney if they didn't take him off the air.
What about the larger implications beyond Jimmy Kimmel? Because we see what happened to Stephen Colbert. Now we see what's happened to Jimmy Kimmel. And the fact that we know that there's an attempted consolidation of media entities and properties in the country. And this consolidation is going to require FCC approval. And so how much of this do you think is a bigger issue in terms of these entities wanting to be sure that they don't fall out of favor with the FCC so that they can get their mergers approved?
Yeah, it's scary overall, because when you're talking about the context of like Stephen Colbert, remember he made that joke that you might not see him again because Trump won. And I actually thought that he was being a little bit hyperbolic, because that's kind of what Stephen Colbert has done in the past. But it turned out he was actually pretty prophetic and to believe that he was no longer going to have a show. And there's these people like Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert losing their shows, but then there are these Zionists like Barry Weiss who don't really meet the qualifications of, at least not in my opinion, compared to others that are more deserving. They're getting entire control over these media conglomerates as if they have something meaningful to contribute, and are more popular than Stephen Colbert, for example. And Barry Weiss is not more popular than Stephen Colbert. Nor Jimmy Kimmel, but she's going to have control over. I can't remember which company it is, but she's about to have control over another one. So in the grand scheme, it looks like Zionists are attempting to consolidate power, not only politically but within media as well. It looks like the MAGA movement is attempting to commit narrative siege effectively, because as we are witnessing Zionists consolidate power, as we are witnessing them do everything in their power to evade the discussion of the Epstein client list and the fact that they broke the promises involving Epstein. They have to control the narrative. And the only way that you can do that is to do what? Control these television programs, control what people can say online, make people fear that they could lose their jobs if they don't go along with the particular narrative. In the grand scheme, there is definitely a reverberating impact that people could feel, because to be completely honest, I felt like Jimmy Kimmel was one of those people who were untouchable because he usually plays ball. And for the longest time, going after Trump was playing ball. And now we're finding out that, no, you can actually be punished for telling the truth about you. Just posting his clips, posting stuff that he said, and just generally making it wasn't even a super off-color joke. It was just kind of like wow, that's kind of like a weird way to mourn your friend who just died. Like, that's strange, and which would be perfectly above ground in any other situation. But now with the Charlie Kirk situation, you can definitely see another way that the right is trying to use a dramatic situation to control the narrative in a way that benefits them and exempts them from any type of criticism.
Two-part question. We've been hearing for quite a while that democracy is under attack. You even have folks from the Trump administration. I'm trying to remember the guy's name, the guy that wrote a lot of the Project 2025 garbage, talking about the end of constitutionalism in America.
Mm-hmm.
How concerned should Americans be with these most recent events? And the second part, this really now seems to be becoming more and more like the Zionist colony of Israel, in that the total intolerance of any level of dissent, any level of questioning the atrocities committed by the Zionist government, they won't tolerate one question, one level of dissent. Your thoughts?
Well, it's looking a little scary. Actually, according to Bibi Netanyahu's video recently, what they posted today or last night, he said that he actually welcomes criticisms from about Israel from Charlie Kirk. At least that's what he claimed. But in all seriousness, it is getting a little bit scary, especially when you consider what we learned in that Gray Zone article, that piece by Max Blumenthal, where we found out that Bill Ackman basically threatened Charlie Kirk. He lured him in, ironically, by claiming that it was a meeting to address how Zoran Mamdani is a threat to the West, even though he would just be the mayor of New York. But his bigotry got the best of him. He went to the meeting in New York, and it turned out they had an entire list of every infraction that he has ever made against Israel. That's what happened. And then Bill Ackman and some other people basically attacked Charlie Kirk. And then we know what happened a month later. We don't know exactly what happened, but that's also part of the problem, is that we don't know exactly what happened. And it seems like very few people are interested in learning the truth. And the level of discomfort that you can see when people bring up the fact that, hey, man, do y'all find it weird that he was, just asking questions about Israel publicly and he was threatened because of it? Like, y'all don't want to investigate that a little bit more? And Bibi Netanyahu comes out and is like, that's insane. Everyone should be terrified when a prime minister feels the need to interject in a situation involving a social media commentator. Like, this isn't a head of state, but he was somehow, for some reason, exchanging letters with the prime minister of Israel, right? We're finding out that Bill Ackman was telling him he couldn't invite, Charlie Kirk couldn't invite Tucker Carlson to his up-and-coming America Fest in December because Tucker Carlson asked one too many questions about Israel's relationship with the United States. That is beyond, one is beyond frustrating that you can't, if you're a conservative, like, you can't criticize Israel, but like, it's beyond scary because Charlie, I don't know if you saw that video from Tucker Carlson where he was talking about the conversation that he had in private with Charlie. He said that Charlie was appalled by what was happening in Gaza, but Charlie never said it.
Right.
Which is a whole different thing, right?
Right.
He said that Charlie despised Bibi Netanyahu. And we've gotten confirmation from Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Max Blumenthal that Bibi offered him money that he denied, and he offered him a trip to Jerusalem that he also denied. And next thing you know, he's no longer alive. And instead of us having that conversation, somehow the right has been able to successfully commit this narrative siege where now we have to discuss whether or not it's justified that Jimmy Kimmel was suspended, whether or not it's justified that people that said that they have no empathy or they have no sympathy for Charlie Kirk being passed away, whether it's justified that they're fired from their jobs, whether or not this Tyler Robinson kid was a leftist when there's really not anything that's like any legitimate forensics evidence or some cooperative evidence that suggests that he was more left than right, right? We have all these other things going on that are distracting us from real questions that need to be asked about Israel and their potential involvement, or if they weren't directly involved in his murder, at least they have been involved in trying to control the narrative after, which is, in my opinion, just as problematic.
Just as problematic. And so to that point, Peggy Parks Miller, thank you very much for that $10 super sticker. And Peggy asks, with the crackdown on free speech, do you think programs like Connecting the Dots will be affected? Let me say programs like Connecting the Dots are already affected.
Yeah, I was about to say, I used to work for RT. We all know it's already been happening.
Before I answer the question, you answer the question.
Yeah, I used to work for RT. Couldn't do it anymore. You know why? Because RT was fearful that the FBI would show up at my door. That's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. My bank account was frozen. They wouldn't let money be transferred to me for like 4 or 5 months because I worked for RT at the beginning of the Ukraine war. Like
the FBI has shown up at my door twice. Once the week before last Thanksgiving and this past February. So Peggy, the answer to the question is yes. And let me say this and then get Niko's response. But I don't care.
Patiently.
And what I mean by that is I'm not going to allow that concern to impact, influence, have any type of impact on what I say, how I say it, and who I bring on. I believe in the First Amendment, even though the government now seems to not to believe in the First Amendment. And I'm going to stand by the First Amendment and my right to speak freely and to petition the government for grievances till they pull the plug on this and other shows. So am I concerned? Yes. Am I scared? No. Do I care? No. And it's going to be what it's going to be. And final point, Niko, then I'll come to you. This just triggered something. We have an awful lot of colleagues that spend an awful lot of time being concerned about the very question that Peggy just asked. And my thing is, well, look, they took me off of MSNBC. They took me off of CNN. And they're going to do what they're going to do. So as my father would say, you can either you're going to do what you do, or they're going to get you if you do. They're going to get you if you don't. So you might as well do.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've been got since I was 24 years old. When I came into the game, they already started getting me. Like what? Because of our past connections at like RT and Sputnik, we know how I can't even really tell you how many people at this point that basically were faced with the decision to up and have to move to Russia to continue to work, or basically they had no choice but to quit because Sputnik and RT in America was dissolved. So, and you know, RT, to their credit, the reason that they let some people go wasn't because they didn't want to keep them. It's because they were trying to look out for their safety. But we all know at least the people who were impacted by it, at the end of the day, we knew what we were getting into when we decided to work for RT, and it was and what even in the impacts after, because we got into RT because of our message, because we have been consistent in our willingness to tell the truth. And whenever someone gave us an opportunity to tell the truth, we took it. And we also knew that like there could be potential consequences from doing so, right? I mean, I joined RT in the middle of Russiagate, so I knew what time it was, right? You working at Sputnik, well, I can't tell you how many times I've been on your shows. So, you know what I'm saying? Like we all knew what the potential consequences were. And even post RT, post Sputnik, by the way, shout out to RT. I think they just had their 20th anniversary, 2 days ago. But you know, like post all that, like we still know what the consequences are. They can still come after our shows on YouTube. I mean, I live in Brazil. They went after Rumble, right? Like there are still potential consequences with telling the truth, but like that's what makes it the truth. And I would even take it even further. Even if the First Amendment didn't exist, I would fight for it. I would fight for it to exist because it's necessary. So if it didn't exist, it would be wrong for it to not exist because it is necessary to be able to engage in discourse, to be able to tell the truth, to be able to protest without getting a permission, like a petition from your government, which is weird that you have to apply to protest. Like that's stupid, right? I think that we all agree with that.
Right. Being
able to engage in what we would call the First Amendment is extremely important because of the time in history that we're at right now. Look at what's happening. People are losing their jobs. People are being lied to straight to their, like, bro, we being straight up lied to. I mean, you can't tell me anything about this Tyler Robinson situation with Charlie Kirk isn't suspicious. Like everything about it is suspicious. The first thing they came out and said was a lie. They said that he turned himself into his father and then his father turned him in. And they were like, oh, our bad. Actually, his father and his mom recognized him on camera and it made him turn himself in. But nobody's coming on camera to actually acknowledge or confirm anything that is being claimed about what they said. Even Discord, whenever they came out, whenever the authorities tried to come out and say that this whole thing was planned on Discord had to come out and be like, don't put us in this shit. We ain't got, they didn't plan it on our platform. That was not in a society where they're taking away shows like this, silencing people for calling this out. Like it's important for people to be willing to tell the truth and, you know, just say, damn the consequences. Because at the end of the day, the truth is going to get out. It's going to be you that tell it or somebody else, but it's going to get out.
Damn the consequences. Rumination with Andrew. That's the point here. And I think you may have slightly either not misunderstood me when you say when we have no option, it will concern you, Dr. Leon. You rumination with Andrew, you missed the point of my statement. I'm not going to allow my concern to dictate my action. Yeah. That's the point. I'm going to speak the truth on every outlet that I have a platform until there are no platforms.
And even at that point, we're gonna make one.
At the end of the day, here's this. I'm not running scared. That's rumination with Andrew. That's the point. I'm not running scared. They're not. You can throw it high and tight. I'm not backing off the plate. I'm going to stand there and I'm going to hit it over the fence every damn day. Chin music, high cheese, whatever you want to call it. Yes, I am a baseball fan. You're not going to back me off the plate. Been in this game too long. It's not going to happen. That's that.
Also, like, I'm sure you can contest to this. It's too much energy to bullshit all the time.
Right.
It really is. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like a conservative friend of mine, very, very popular, literally told me, like, you could be more popular than Candace Owens, Niko. Like, just do the thing where you pretend to be conservative for like a year because you make their arguments better than they do. I said, yeah, but I ain't got it in me, dog. I can't do it. That's exhausting.
I was told that in Milwaukee at the RNC. When I was in Milwaukee in July, I was told that very thing. Wilmer,
I ain't got it in me, dog.
Do you have any idea how much money you could make?
That's exactly what they tell you.
Right. Right.
That money ain't worth my soul. And let me tell you something, woman, because they do bring up the money, and I understand why people would be so. But like when you take money from these gangsters, you can't give it back, dog.
No.
Look at what we just saw.
And here's the other thing. And I don't say this because you're on here. I say this because it's true. I appreciate our relationship. I respect our relationship. I respect you as a man. And there are too many people that I respect that I could never have them in a conversation with each other saying, hey, man, did you see Wilmer's Ferrari? Yeah, but what the hell happened to him?
Yeah, I can't do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I can't do it. I can't. I feel you completely. I be thinking about that all the time.
But now he's
about my grandma.
Now he's drinking 25-year-old Macallans. Yeah, but dude used to be down.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I used to think about my grandma because she watched everything I did. Like before I knew she watched everything I did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and especially once I found that, I always thought about her because my grandma just always was, rest in peace. But she used to be on my head because she just wanted to make sure everything was copacetic and I was always standing on business because that's how she is as an individual. And I would always think like, dang, if I sold out, what would my grandma say? Because I have never really imagined myself doing that. I'm like, what would my grandma say if I was saying X, Y, and Z? Like, do these people not have family members, or do their family members just not care, or because there is the normalization of selling out is a thing in some families. Like they're okay with it.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't aware that it was that popular. It was consistent with societal norms in America. But
because their measure of success is based upon the size of your bank account. And so the means justify the ends. Mm-hmm. But see, like your grandmother, after every show on my other show, as soon as I got out the studio and got in the car, my phone would ring and my parents would be on the phone.
Really?
Oh yeah. And if I went too far in one direction or if I didn't treat a guest with respect, oh man, boy, we didn't raise you like that.
I used to get called like that from my mom sometimes too. Whenever I would have to say something that would appear to be in defense of Trump, she'd be like, Niko, why are you defending Trump? I'm like, no, I didn't defend Trump. I actually criticized the way that the government is weaponizing itself against Trump, but really it's against us. And I would have to go into this explanation to help her understand. And she'd be like, oh.
See, when I would do that, the response would be, I don't care about that.
Yeah, there was some of that, but then you know what I would tell her? I'm like, Mom, you raised me this way. It was you who raised me to tell the truth. Like, even if you don't like it, that's what it is. Right. The reason I'm like this is literally because of her. Like, I tell her that all the time. I'm like, it's like, but I don't know. It just feels like sometimes that you're doing. I'm like, no, it's just because sometimes the truth is very uncomfortable and inconvenient. And really, what people were experiencing, especially at that moment, was the realization that neither side of the government works for them. Like that, and I guess because I had realized it really early on, it was less uncomfortable for me to have that conversation than it was for a lot of people in my life to hear it, because it was like, I'm not saying anything that's factually untrue. And it was making them uncomfortable because they're like, well, hold on. If the government isn't working for me and it ain't working for them, then who is it working for? Exactly. Mm-hmm.
That's the question. and so to that point, if the government isn't working for me and it's not working for them, who's it working for? Mel W., what did those young people do in Nepal to get a new regime? It was through Discord, I heard. Mel, you're being kind to say Discord. They raised hell. They go ahead.
I heard. They was going. They been pissed off because it was like a military regime before, so they had been pissed off. Discord, there was some coordination through there. There's some talks that the U.S. was partially involved in it as well, because they wanted, they have some weird thing between Nepal and India, and India is leaning less towards the U.S., and so they need a new regime in the area that's going to be more friendly towards the U.S. And Nepal was not. So like it's like a lot of,
right.
But it won't. Hey, look. It might have been, coordinated to some degree on Discord, but that ain't where it ended.
No.
They was in the streets for real. They dragged them out.
That's why I said Mel, you were being kind, because that was some knee deep Discord that those folks were.
Totally it was some Discord, all right. It was some Discord.
Totally deep. Okay, so Venezuela. And the story in Orinoco Tribune is that now false flag operation, they're finding drugs on DEA agents. Niko House, you are on the continent. How is this being discussed there?
Well, first of all, let me just say the thing that you said, like, oh, if you're not getting your drugs from the DEA, where you getting it from? That ain't the damn truth. So with the context, people need to understand something with the context of the DEA in Venezuela. The Venezuelan government actually used to work with the DEA until what was it 2010 or something like that?
I don't know.
To combat trafficking. Like they worked together. Do you know why they stopped? Because the DEA was caught, one, spying on the Venezuelan government with the acts that they had, but two, they were working with the traffickers. Mm-hmm. That's why Venezuela severed their relationship and just decided to start dealing with the trafficking alone. And once Venezuela decided to start dealing with it alone, wouldn't you know it, all of a sudden the trafficking slowed down substantially. Crazy how that works out. Mm-hmm. When you move the DEA from a situation, less drugs going to flow through the area. Also, on top of all that, just fast forward, now Venezuela has started to use its own military to traffic patrol their waters so that the U.S. doesn't have an excuse to get involved. And they're actually working with Colombia as well to help control the situation that the United States swears Venezuela is perpetuating. I'm like, that's a weird thing. Like they're sending their military out to stop a situation that they supposedly caused. And Trump actually has said zero. He has not mentioned the fact that Maduro and the Colombian government are working together to deal with the trafficking. What Trump is doing is committing extrajudicial murders. Right. And when people ask for proof to justify this murder, which is still a murder and is still illegal, like even if you have proof of the trafficking and the drugs that you claim are on the boat, you just bombing the hell out of them is still illegal. Whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. But when people ask him about the proof, he's like, yeah, man, there was some fentanyl, some coke floating in the water. Oh my God. What the hell is going on in the White House? Y'all got to drag that man up out of there. This is getting ridiculous because at the end of the day, I need like some weight. I need some visual confirmation. Mm-hmm. Can we get like some international confirmation that this little fishing boat that you blew up actually had drugs, first of all? And two, can we also get some international confirmation or an explanation as to why the United States has not been held accountable for extrajudiciously blowing up not one, not two, but 3 boats without stopping them, without confirming that the boats were actually carrying drugs, first of all, and without giving them due process internationally, which everyone is entitled to, because that's what's supposed to happen. And but the real reason is, like you said, they're trying to start a war with Venezuela. The reason that they're trying to start a war with Venezuela is the same reason that they're trying to start beef with Brazil. It's the same reason that they're working with the actual lead drug trafficker in South America, which is the president of Ecuador, right? Who literally got caught putting cocaine in bananas. Like his family's company is the lead cocaine trafficker in the world, got caught multiple times doing so. And his man's still the president. And they have a friendly relationship with the US. I know, go figure, right? So it's the reason why they're trying to exercise control over Latin America. And it's because they've lost control over everywhere else. They have shifted gears. They have shifted their sights because, look at what's happening in Africa. That's out the window. They have no control over that situation anymore. Mm-hmm. NATO, Western Europe. We see what's happening in France. We know that prime minister got scapegoated because their economy is trash now, because Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali took control of their governments. We know that the situation with Ukraine is a lost cause, and Russia will rule Eastern Europe, and everybody's going to have to bow down. We know that at the end of the day, no matter how much they fund Israel, once Iran says we've had enough. Oh, and by the way, Saudi Arabia just got a nuke. So there's that. But once Iran says that they've had enough and they've reached that conclusion already, Iran can exercise power and control over that region, especially with their regional allies. And Israel is kind of setting itself up for failure. And I think that America is fully aware of that, even though they're still doing the bidding of Israel because they're kind of terrified of the Mossad individually. At the end of the day, they see the writing on the wall. And then there's China, who is getting control of everything, not by bullying people into submission, but through bilateral negotiations. And so the only way that the U.S. can compete with them is with the rest of the world at this point is to focus and consolidate all of their efforts into trying to control Latin America in general. Because we have, you have the lithium triangle. Venezuela has the crude oil supply, but they just did that deal with Russia, which is going to benefit both of those countries, obviously. Brazil has crude oil, Lord knows how much agriculture, and also gold that nobody has really talked about. There's a lot of Latin America has all the resources that these other countries have, and it's close by. So the necessity right now for America to save its economy before this imminent stagflation causes the collapse of the U.S. economy, like they're feeling it. And I know everybody's talking about it, but everybody's pretending like it's not happening. But we know what's coming. And they need to figure out a solution because the other solutions will no longer work because the rest of the world has figured out their game. And that's it. And they're calling their bluff now.
Is there also a domino theory as it relates to South America, in that if they can get Venezuela to fold, then the surrounding countries will fall in line?
I think that the US
I've never heard anybody say that, but I'm wondering if that is part of this logic.
So there is a little bit of that logic because they already have Argentina, right?
Okay.
They're building that base
right
in the southernmost tip of Argentina. If Venezuela folds, that takes another partner out of Brazil's pocket, out of Brazil's partnership. There, and it's already a little bit tumultuous. Even Lula has backtracked some of the comments about Maduro recently. He kind of sold him out in the BRICS situation, but. So that would bring Venezuela to heel. Argentina still in your pocket. We don't know what's going to happen with Malay because that situation is what it is. Ecuador is already in your pocket. Paraguay and Uruguay kind of just do whatever the U.S. tells them to, regardless. Mexico would all of a sudden kind of be standing alone, right? And they would kind of have to bend to the will of the U.S. And Brazil is always up for grabs. I think that's kind of like been evident with the whole Bolsonaro situation. He was a puppet until he wasn't, and when he became useless, they sent the CIA to put Lula back in, and they told Bolsonaro to back off. He didn't, and now he's serving 27 years for nothing that he actually should be serving time for. I'm just, for those of y'all who are curious about what's going on with Bolsonaro, like, this man got time for other people vandalizing buildings. I'm not joking. Alexander Moraes is a victim, and one of the victims in the case that they judged, and this man is passing judgment on the case. So Brazil was always up for grabs, and the U.S. knows that. And if Venezuela's not there to help protect them, Colombia's always right? But Argentina's firmly in the pockets, and the rest of Latin America just kind of falls in line, and Ecuador is Ecuador. They could effectively control all of South America and enforce Mexico to bend the knee. And then that would force, obviously, Central America also to fall in line or kind of get down a lay down situation. They start sending troops in. So it's but the US needs Latin America now more than they've ever needed them before, which honestly kind of, I guess, it puts all their cards on the table and makes them a little bit more predictable, and which is why you see Maduro calling up 4 million reserve.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Bluff. Start that sentence again, because I didn't quite understand. You said
they put all their cards on the table now because everybody knew. The U.S.
Oh, okay.
The U.S. put all there because they know that the world knows you need Latin America, because China and Russia got the rest of the world on lock, especially the global South. And because of that, that actually makes you look desperate. And so Maduro, in this particular case, for example, has been calling the U.S.'s bluff. He called up the 4 million reserves, started talking openly about the drones and how they're prepared to attack the U.S., basically saying, we dare you to come on our soil. And the U.S. isn't doing anything. Because before, them just floating around in circles and threatening those countries was more than enough. Before, you could just do a covert operation, sneak in, and overthrow the government. But it's not working anymore. And so I think the desperation is reeking. Like, everybody can sense it, and that's why it won't work anymore. So we'll see what happens. But I just did this drug trafficking thing is not going to be a good enough excuse to justify going to war. And even if they did, I don't think we could beat Venezuela.
Well, I will quote Minister Farrakhan as he was talking at the National Press Club. He was giving a speech and he was directing his comments towards George Bush. This was right before the Bush administration went into Iraq. And he said, the first couple of weeks, you got this. But you won't win this with your technology. He said, after the first couple of weeks, you're going to have to bring your soldiers in here. And when you do, they got something for you. So I can see the United States off the coast, as we did with Iraq, shock and awe. Nothing but Tomahawk cruise missiles. Go to Missiles R Us and get all the cruise missiles you want. But you got to send the soldiers in there.
Eventually.
And that's when the whole table turns.
And when recruiting is at an all-time low, right? Only recently has recruiting gone up, but one can make an argument that's because of the economy, right? Which is kind of like a catch-22. One can make an argument that there's a controlled demolition of the economy specifically to increase recruitment, because we all know it's a poverty draft. But you really want recruits that don't believe in any of the wars that you're fighting in? I promise you're going to lose that war, because then Venezuela, them 4 million reservists, they believe in who they fighting for.
Oh,
they're fighting for home.
It's the revolution.
Exactly.
It's the revolution. These are Chavistas. This is revolution. Well,
generational.
And then going back to the minister, he said, you're in the army, but why? You're in the army because you couldn't get a job. And you didn't want to, as he said, and you didn't want to be no criminal. You didn't want to sell no drugs. So you joined the army. And
Black people specifically, I have to explain to people so often. I'm like, bro, if you look at most successful Black people, and that is not excluding myself, we are either the direct generation of the descendant of somebody in the military, like we were in there, or you're one generation removed from it. Somebody in your family was in the military because there was no other way.
It helped create the Black middle class.
Exactly. There was no choice because we had our middle class stripped from us. During really after the Federal Housing Act, and then our Black Wall Street started getting destroyed, and like we weren't allowed to build capital in the way that we used to. The Black dollar stopped passing from black hand to black hand, and black hand instead started getting passed from black hand to white hand. So what happened? The only way we could build security was to go into the military, and that's effectively how we built ourselves back up. Obviously, I didn't want to do it. I despise the military. But I didn't have a choice because I had a full ride to college, but I couldn't go back and forth. I didn't know I was going to get back and forth to UNC at the time. I didn't know how I was going to eat during the summer. I didn't know how my mom was going to get by and pay bills. I didn't know I was going to help support my siblings. My mom couldn't do it by herself because that's why I was working in high school to begin with, was to help my mom. There were so many extenuating circumstances that I didn't have a choice, basically. And I didn't want to put the burden on my mom, and I didn't want to put the burden on myself to try to figure it out, because it was because it's not just me I'm worried about. And the U.S. uses that against you. And it's not fair. And, people could criticize me for it, and I would accept the criticism, because if you can't find another way, I would always suggest it. But the there is a concerted effort to leave Black people with no choice but to enter the military. And usually it's not as an officer. It is specifically as enlisted. They want you to be enlisted. They want you to be the ones taking orders. And you're usually going to be stuck somewhere between E6 and E7 unless you're willing to play politics.
Unless you're willing to play politics. There was another country that you didn't mention that borders Venezuela and Guyana. And there's a piece in Orinoco Tribune written by Gerald Pereira, who was on the show last week. Guyana, a pawn of U.S. imperialism. The recently concluded Guyanese elections spectacularly reinforced my claim that liberal democracy is a bogus concept, one of the biggest cons ever invented and thrust upon humanity. And he goes on to talk about the outcome of this election. You didn't mention Guyana in your South American analysis. And again, I got that piece by Gerald. Wanted to throw that out for you.
Oh, I mean, honestly, I just default to Guyana being a U.S. puppet. I mean, it is a country in Latin America that's full of, ethnically, they're Desi for the most part, and they literally just speak English. I mean, it's kind of like one of those countries. It's like what's the other one? There's another country that it's on the coast of Venezuela. They don't speak Spanish. Oh my God, is it not Cabo? What is that country that's off the coast of Venezuela? It's an island, and they don't speak Spanish. You know what I'm talking about? A lot of white people go there to retire, actually. But yeah, it's like that. But Guyana is even worse because they have all this Desi culture, all the Indian culture. They're off the coast. They are literally in Latin America, but they speak English. They are a U.S. puppet, unfortunately. It's and I don't really think they have much of a choice because they don't have any. They don't have any leverage politically, like economically or anything like that, outside of being a coastal country. So it's kind of unfortunate for the Guyanese too, because they're very prideful people, and they have their own unique cultural flavor and all that good stuff. But as far as control over their own country, they would need to make deals with Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, and none of those countries are consistent enough in their politics to justify Guyana starting a beef with the U.S. by partnering with them. So,
are you talking about Barbados?
No, Guyana. Oh, no, Barbados. No, Barbados. No,
the island off the coast of Venezuela.
No, not Barbados. It's another one. It's another
Grenada?
one. Not the West. It's not a West Indian. It's not considered West Indian. I'm gonna remember it at some point, but yeah, so Guyana, I just feel like they if they wanted to make a deal for protection, basically with one of the three major Latin American countries that they border, like those countries would have to be more consistent and reliable. And the only one that would be reliable kind of is Venezuela, but like it couldn't just be Venezuela. It would have to be Venezuela and Brazil, or Venezuela and Colombia, or Venezuela and Argentina. And none of those countries have been able to stave off U.S. imperialism enough to justify Guyana basically pissing off the U.S. and intervening in whatever way the U.S., or causing the U.S. to intervene in whatever way they decide to.
Isaac says Curacao.
No, it's not Curacao. It
got
Aruba. Boom, boom. There you go.
Okay,
appreciate you, Ryan.
It had to be Curacao because Isaac said so, and Isaac's never wrong. Okay, Aruba. Okay.
Yeah, Aruba's like literally like right there. It is. They don't speak Spanish. I was like, when I found that out, I always thought that Aruba was a Spanish-speaking country,
right?
And I found out later that it wasn't.
What's their national? What language do they speak?
They speak English.
English. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting. So what are the two big issues that are concerning Niko House right now on the political landscape?
The two biggest. Well, okay, so the first one's from Brazil. This situation with Bolsonaro is actually kind of problematic to me, because like I was saying, they effectively it's like a January 6th type of situation, but it's worse because Bolsonaro basically said that he didn't. He wanted to confirm the results. He complained about the results, and in my opinion, criticizing your democracy is a huge part of democracy. Wanting to verify that you did in fact lose is perfectly fine. It's, as they say in Brazil, faz parte. It's part of the process. Like, in saying that he tried to commit a coup because he criticized the results, when I know for a fact the CIA was literally here, that the CIA pulled Bolsonaro to the side and told him to shut the hell up because they want Lula in, which is that's a whole other problem. Like, I feel like that's going to be a boomerang politically that comes back and bites Brazilian leftists in the ass, and there are not enough people who are realizing that.
So wait a minute. So to that point, explain that point, understanding that Bolsonaro's nickname was the Little Donald Trump, and that Steve Bannon, after getting Trump in, Steve Bannon went from the United States to Brazil, advised Bannon the same way he advised Trump. A lot of their rhetoric. Bannon advised Bolsonaro the same way he advised Trump, using a lot of the exact same language. So explain to the audience how the CIA would want now to go into Brazil and tell Bolsonaro, you got to go because Lula's at the door.
So basically, Lula had already been arrested before, for those people who might have forgot. And what was kind of scary about his arrest the first time was that he didn't even get charged officially. They just arrested him, kind of using the excuse like that he was a flight risk effectively, but then he was never officially charged. That's how Bolsonaro effectively was able to get in, because he didn't have to deal with Lula. Then, like you said, they played the same playbook, got him to speak, got Bolsonaro using populist rhetoric that felt a lot of people feel included. He was kind of like a chauvinist prick in a lot of ways, but
and a lot of homophobic stuff.
Yeah, a lot of homophobic stuff, but unfortunately, kind of like in the States, that's to some degree, even amongst like the poor Black people, like, okay, as long as you're going to help make me money. So he was able to get in. He barely got in, but he was able to get in. Now, he was playing ball with the U.S., especially as far as international stuff is concerned. And then at a certain point, he actually started doing things that actually made sense for Brazil. So, for example, there's digital banking to the degree that you don't have to go to a bank as long as you have a cell phone. That's a big deal in a country where most people don't have cars. You know what I'm saying? Where most of the country is still rural, where most people, if they have to resolve something at the bank, they're walking 30, 45 minutes, or they have to take the bus, and it's very inconvenient. He made it so that these street vendors could use these credit card machines instead of having to deal with cash. So now it makes it easier for you to get tourist money and convert right at the machine, instead of having the tourists having to go and convert them. So a lot of stuff like that Bolsonaro actually did, and it was good for the Brazilian real.
Why was that?
That is not good for the U.S.
Why? Explain why.
Because it changed the exchange rate was decreasing. Basically, the Brazilian real was becoming stronger against the dollar. And at one point,
basically, because you're able to trade in your own currency.
You're able to trade in your own currency.
By using those machines, you're able to trade in your own currency, locking the dollar out and locking the American SWIFT system out of the game.
Exactly. Because if I'm from Great Britain, for example, if I'm using the pound, I use my card on that machine just like a Brazilian would, just like an American would. If I wanted to use a yuan, I would use my card on the machine. The machines automatically convert. They automatically convert. People think that's not a big deal. It's a huge deal. And guess what? Those credit card companies are now getting a piece, because they're going to they charge a little bit. It's a little bit because it's the convenience charge of using that machine, just like in the States. So now the credit card companies are like, yeah, man, hell yeah, we're gonna make it super easy for these people to get these machines. And so everybody to some degree was benefiting from it, even poor people. That, once again, is not good, because a strong Brazil economy is probably the United States' biggest fear. Like, I've felt like that since before I moved here, because they got everything. Brazil has everything and no natural disasters. We don't have earthquakes. We don't have hurricanes. We don't have tornadoes. The only thing that you have are landslides at times because of bad foundations in poor neighborhoods, and they don't take care of them. Like, that's the worst thing you have from rain, and that's it. But like, as far as like true natural disasters, we don't have it. And we have beautiful weather. The women are even more beautiful. The culture is intoxicating. They had 20 million people come to Carnival this past year, the most they've ever had in history.
Wow,
people. So the United States is not wanting to get to the point right now, especially where the Brazilian real is almost equal to the dollar again, because people forget in 2017, 2018, what did Trump dumbass do? Cause that beef between between the U.S. And China in the farming industry. So guess where China turned to resolve that issue? Brazil.
They got the beef from Brazil.
And Brazil made like $60 billion this last year off of it.
Didn't they get soybeans from Brazil as well?
Soybeans, yep. Anything that has to do with the farming industry now, China goes to Brazil. Brazil had to make a whole extra port just to keep up with the demand from China now. Yeah, because China completely cut out the U.S. So Bolsonaro, and this really started under Bolsonaro. It was continued and foundationalized under Lula, but it was going to happen regardless because of Trump, and because Bolsonaro is not about to turn away free money. He would say stuff about China and criticize China, but like at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who do that, and what do they do? They still be taking China's money. The U.S. especially, they're known for that. So you think Brazil's gonna be any different? No, because at the end of the day, Bolsonaro wanted to win again. Like that was in his self-interest to win, because think about it. You see what happens when you lose in Brazil. They throw your ass in jail. The other party comes after you. Like it's crazy. It shouldn't be like that, but that's how it is. And he needed to win. And that's why in the US, we had to beg for our money during the pandemic. I mean, literally beg for the safety net that we've been paying into with our tax dollars. And some people got it and some people didn't, but that is not the case in Brazil. Everybody got it. Bolsonaro, and you didn't have to argue with them. He offered it because they made you stay home. Therefore, those people got payments. Everybody. So, which is, you never hear that about Bolsonaro, but that's what happened. So even though he was problematic in a lot of ways, he was problematic for the U.S. too. And they were like, nah, we got to put Lula in because Lula already knows the consequences for defying us. And that's why everything in Brazil has been stagnant. Grocery prices have gone up since then. The value of the dollar since Lula has taken over has increased dramatically, like by 25% since he's taken over, which is good for me, but it's horrible for Brazil. And even if it's it's good for me, it's not really, because I'm dealing with inflation. So even though the dollar might be worth more, I'm not really saving money because everything is more expensive.
Got you. Okay.
Oh, the second issue would be this Charlie Kirk situation got me just my head spinning because this like I said, the deification of this man and the celebration of this man as if he was championing discourse. No, my guy, dehumanizing human beings and going to college campuses to dehumanize them even further, right? And focusing all of your energy on dehumanizing everyone and vilifying everybody who just doesn't look like you. That is not championing discourse. That is being a professional gaslighter.
I will send you the piece that I wrote about this. Charlie Kirk's racist, xenophobic rhetoric is not protected speech. But one of the things that I have found incredibly interesting listening to Western mainstream press, they want to make this out to be a First Amendment issue. But how do you talk about a speaker and don't mention his speech? They talk about Charlie Kirk all the time, and that, he was assassinated expressing his freedom of speech, but they never tell you what he was saying.
They never tell you what he was saying. And it's so ridiculous because you see these pictures.
Xenophobic bigot.
They said the pictures. You see these pictures putting him next to Martin Luther King, and these dumbasses don't realize he hated Martin Luther King.
Right.
He literally said that Martin Luther King having a holiday was problematic and harmful to society. People.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said that instead, people like Clarence Thomas, yes, the same Clarence Thomas who sexually assaulted Anita Hill and then got propped up and held up and defended all the way to the Supreme Court because of Joe Biden, somebody who Charlie Kirk hates. That's the Clarence Thomas that Charlie Kirk wanted to celebrate. But they put him next to Martin Luther King, shaking hands with him. They were assassinated for the same reasons. No, they weren't.
Exactly.
No, first of all, we don't even know why Charlie Kirk was assassinated. There is an assumption being made that he was assassinated because he wanted to exercise free speech. But in the reality, if what Tucker Carlson is saying is true, Charlie Kirk didn't even practice the principles that he preached because he didn't engage in the free speech that he was entitled to because of the money that he could gain from lying instead. Because if he really didn't support what Israel was doing in Gaza, if he really despised Bibi Netanyahu, like what we're hearing, if he really has stronger feelings to the contrary of the Zionist beliefs that he put out in the public, that means you weren't standing on business. That means you didn't believe in this principle. You didn't believe in truth telling. But when it came to demonizing Black people, you also lied. Like you weren't consistent in anything. You were a liar through and through. Even in the things that you claim you believed in, you were lying about.
But now they want to make him a saint.
And everything that he's ever said has been taken out of context. Everything that he's ever said is just not being put in the proper context. I say, go watch the show. Actually, the clips don't do it justice.
Oh, right.
That's
Absolutely.
What's crazy.
Absolutely right.
Like, it's worse. If you watch this, it's worse.
And the final point on this, and then we got to get out. He vilified Muslims and Islam.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a Muslim that killed him.
Nope.
He vilified Black people. Whoa, Black people for fun go into cities and attack white people. Wasn't a brother that got him. He was incredible. And this is one of the things that, in fact, I wrote this in the piece. He was incredibly intolerant and ran up against someone even more intolerant than him. And these are the dangers. When you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
That's what it comes down to.
And you created this environment of hatred.
Yep.
You know,
and pretended it was everybody else who was being intolerant the whole time. When you knew you were creating an environment of hatred.
It's like peeing in your own swimming pool.
Right. And then being like, hey man, who did that? Why is the pool so warm? Bro, you know you did it. You're the only one in the pool.
And then getting in the pool.
Exactly. Like, you know you did that, bro. Why you like it? But with Charlie, it's like, what's crazy when he got killed, there was not a single Black person that was like, damn, man, I hope that wasn't one of us. We knew it wasn't us. We knew it wasn't us. We don't do shit like that. You think that a white guy saying a bunch of racist stuff is going to make me throw my life away to keep him in line when I deal with that on a daily basis? On a daily basis. You think that I'm going to throw my life away because I'm offended by this racist white guy? Bruh, no, we don't do that because unfortunately, we are desensitized to it. We just accept that figures like Charlie Kirk will always, at least for the foreseeable future, will always have a place in society because his job is the easiest job there is in our field, which is to maintain the status quo. And we've been swimming against the tide, trying to move the status quo our entire lives. So why the hell would I throw my life away and give him exactly what he wants, which is to be a martyr? Why would I give that to them? We wouldn't do it. That's the point. And whenever people found out that it was one of them, right? That's why like there was this immediate reaction to try to make him like they wouldn't even accept the possibility that it was a conservative. They wouldn't even accept. I'm like, because y'all are saying that he's a leftist. We don't know that. There have been claims like, oh, he had a trans boyfriend. Okay, where are the pictures at? Because y'all keep saying it's trans boyfriend they're together. We know that for a fact. There are no pictures of them together. They could and this is the same FBI that has been lying about the Epstein files ever since Trump got in office and before that.
And the Kennedy assassination. And the King assassination.
Thank you. But now, y'all, I'm just supposed to just blindly believe them.
Right.
Okay. Because it serves their narrative. Because y'all just knew y'all had y'all one. Y'all just knew it was one of us. I don't know why y'all convinced yourselves of this, but y'all just knew it. And when it was like, damn, y'all saw pictures of him being a gun fanatic, wearing the American flag. His dad's a cop. His dad's a pastor. He's from the Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints. His school that he was going to, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Utah State University is like Mormon country of the colleges of Utah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, he was one of y'all. He might have been at
that's where Mormons go to become Mormons.
Exactly. Let's keep it a band, everybody. The likelihood of him being conservative or at the bare minimum apolitical is far higher than him actually being a true blue leftist, which is why we keep finding more proof of the former rather than the latter. But y'all keep wanting to point to the latter because of some comments in some articles. Because of what? Because y'all cannot accept the possibility that it was one of y'all who might have killed y'all. Or if once again, I don't even know if it was him that did it. That's the crazy part. Well, they can't even accept that.
Let me get to that really quickly. And that is, you were in the military, much better trained in arms than I, even though I was trained by Willie Hicks and I hit what I shoot at. 200 yards?
200 yards, 5 to 7 mile per hour winds.
Single shot.
From the top of a building. With a gun that he'd never used in his life. Yeah, no, it's not happening. I'm telling you. Like, if he would have hit the body from 200 yards, I would have been impressed. That I'm trying to tell y'all.
Center math.
I used like center math I would have been impressed. But I would make an argument that he probably was aiming, if he hit him, he was probably aiming for the head and hit the neck. That's still impressive. Because 5 to 7 miles per hour wind from 200 yards out from a gun you've never used that is not adjusted for you, there's 5% chance. There was a Navy SEAL commander who said the exact same thing. I was like, okay, yeah, I know I'm not crazy. I've shot plenty of guns, and I've shot enough guns to know that that's crazy. One shot. Because when everybody who know, if you've shot guns before, you got to get a couple off to make sure that your gun is adjusted correctly.
You got to sight it.
There's like, you're not hitting somebody in the neck from 200 yards out with 5 to 7 miles per hour winds with one shot. He would have had to practice somewhere, and after a couple of shots rang off earlier, somebody obviously would have been alerted. So he got to practice, but he allegedly picked up this gun that someone dropped off in the woods. And not to mention the fact that the caliber of the round that was supposedly used from that gun didn't even sound like it's supposed to sound when it went off. So there's that whole thing.
Okay.
So like I said, and then there's the weird decoy that took credit for the shot and was like, kill me, and distracted while this kid was allegedly able to run across the building, but didn't run with a gun in their hand, obviously, because that man was booking it. Jumped down. I'm like, damn, this man, Spider-Man with a sniper rifle? How he moving like that? Because he didn't have the gun. But supposedly they found the gun in the woods after. And allegedly he showed up in a Dodge Challenger at 8 o'clock in the morning to prepare for all this. And no one clocked the license plate. And he was able to drive 3.5 hours back to Washington, Utah. And no one picked him up on the side. Like, this is high alert shit. The president of the United States talking about this, people. Mm-hmm. The prime minister of Israel, the president of Australia. Like, no one got his license plate on the way in and on the way out. No one can confirm that. Like,
all those cameras.
Do y'all see why people are looking sideways? Like, are we even sure this kid was the one who did it? Because If he did do it, it damn sure wasn't with that rifle. And he didn't do it from that distance.
People need to.
So
really
there are way more
understand.
questions that need to be asked. And if these people truly consider themselves to be friends of Charlie Kirk, they should be more interested in trying to figure out the truth rather than trying to paint him as some right-wing free speech hero that's just a victim of left-wing intolerance. Like, no, that's not what happened. There's nothing that suggests that, just you guys.
And the other thing, we've been told no party affiliation. He was a lone wolf, is what we've been told. Can you hear me, Niko? Did we lose him?
Hold on one second. Okay, I think I can hear you now. Say something.
Oh, okay.
Why can't I hear you?
I don't know.
I am not hearing you. You went silent on me. Let me check if it's me.
Well, maybe I'll yell more. So you can hear me in Brazil. Well, here's the point. Here's the point, and then we'll get out. The point is this. They tell us he's a lone wolf. They tell us there's no party affiliation. But when you listen to Donald Trump, he puts it in the context of the left. When you listen to Charlie Kirk's wife, she puts it in the context of those evil doers. So if she is as heartbroken and distraught as she claims to be, she doesn't.
Hey, Doug, I'm gonna come out and come back in. Hold on one second.
Okay. She doesn't seem to be that heartbroken to where she can't find the time and the space to politicize the murder of her husband. That's my point. And I'm not saying that she's in on it. I'm not saying any of that. But I just find it interesting how quickly and conveniently they were able to politicize this. On the one hand, you tell me he's a lone wolf, but now this is a conspiracy of the left. You tell me he acted as an individual, but now he's part of these evildoers. Again, all of that rhetoric tells me your game was BS from the beginning.
Facts.
So James Brown, he started telling the truth at the very. Oh, I guess you're talking about Charlie Kirk. He started telling the truth at the very end. Only
because he was scared, and only because that's where the win. Like the problem is, we all saw Candace Owens left Ben Shapiro with all that money he had, all the popularity he had, all the fame, and as a black woman, like let's keep it a band, right? Because even as a conservative, she's still a black woman, and she became more popular than Ben Shapiro from telling the truth about Israel. They saw where look at Tucker Carlson. They saw where the wind was blowing. So now it is a problem with my bottom line. And nothing will make a conservative switch up faster
than the bottom line. Kamala Harris might want to take some lessons on that.
He was asking questions, but he wasn't necessarily telling the truth. Like I can ask questions and pretend like I don't know what the truth is. That's still disingenuous. Especially when we're finding out from people he knew personally, people that call him friend, that are coming out saying, no, he disliked Bibi Netanyahu. He despised the way Israel used the United States to do its bidding. He despised the way that Bibi Netanyahu's behavior is destructive for the United States. And he didn't want to say it out in public. So he wasn't telling the truth. He was trying to sprinkle a little bit of it out there because it was popular to do so, and probably to get a temperature of what the water was.
He used the truth as bait, basically,
and maybe because he was scared. So like he kind of had to start putting it out there early, like before because we know how much I get down at the end of the day.
Niko House, my brother, thank you, appreciate it, outstanding as always.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Look forward to having you back.
Always.
All right. Want to thank him, as I just did, for joining me today. Thank you all so much for listening to the Connecting the Dots podcast with me, Dr. Wilmer Leon. New episode tomorrow. Ted Rall is going to join us tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the protests in France. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump's trip to London, which we're going to tie to the protests in France. And we're going to talk about this attack on free speech in the United States. So please follow, subscribe, leave a review, share the show. Folks, trying to get to 10,000. We're close, but we need you to get us there. And please, again, share the show. Encourage your friends to like the show and watch the show. I like the show. You should like it too. This is where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge. Talk without analysis is just chatter. And we don't chatter here on Connecting the Dots. See y'all tomorrow. Until then, I am Dr. Wilmer Leon. Have a blessed, wonderful remainder of your day. Peace. I'm out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.